Welcome to the very first episode of Precision Pulse. This is your host, Amit Jain. We are thrilled to have you here as we kick off this journey. In today's episode, we will introduce you to the podcast, why we started it, and the impact we hope to make. Then, we will get into the conversation with our special guest, Peter Riccelli, learn more about him, explore his thoughts and personal experiences with precision practices in everyday life. Before we dive into the Precision Pulse, let's first explore the inspiration behind the podcast. When most of the people hear the word precision, especially in the healthcare and life science ecosystem, they often think of medicine, like diagnostic tests that help identify patients for the right treatment. But precision goes far beyond medicine. With a deep appreciation of precision in science, Precision Pulse is launched to explore how targeted and intentional choices can shape our well-being and performance. Let's take the case of manufacturing. Precision engineering ensures high-quality products, like the craftsmanship behind high-performance running shoes or design and manufacturing of satellites for precise launch. When we look into the lifestyle, take Hoka shoes, for example. They're designed with precision to create a unique experience for every step you take. When we look into the fitness and wellness, workouts can be precisely targeted to strengthen specific muscles, relieve back pain, or even reduce stress and migraines. When we look into the nutrition, a precisely balanced diet supports different lifestyles, whether it's a wrestler fueling for the strength or a marathon running optimized endurance. And at last, not the least, mindfulness and meditation. Precision could go this far. The practice of transitioning from a conscious to a subconscious state follows precise techniques. That's the value of precision beyond medicine. Through this podcast, our goal is to bring you the conversation and insights that inspire a more intentional, precise approach to everyday life. In each episode, we will explore a new topic, and that will become our pulse. So, why did we start the podcast? Because precision is not just a concept. It's a way of thinking, living, and thriving. And we can't wait to explore this further with you. Now let's get started. Please, let me introduce our first special guest, Peter Riccelli, a seasoned life science professional, precision medicine subject matter expert, a dear friend, and a mentor. Pete, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm doing fine. It's good to be here. I'm excited about this. This is a cool idea. I'm very honored to be your first special guest. We'll have a good conversation today. As you know, I have, today's call will be focused on the precision medicine aspect of it. That's our profession. But as we'll discuss, I've also have a unique sort of patient perspective, and we can talk about some of the other things that you mentioned that go beyond medicine that I actually experience and practice in my daily life as well. So, looking forward to it.
Definitely, we are very excited to have you here on our first pilot episode. Pete, we've been knowing each other for almost 10 years, right?
Yep.
We started at Diaceutics, we did really good work there, and then at Veranex, and now here. What a journey! Feels like it's like yesterday. How you feel about that?
Yeah, no, definitely. Time goes by fast. But yeah, no, as you said, we started off, I was at Abbott Molecular as a technology assessment manager. And really the goal of that was to identify opportunities to sort of market the Abbott products in the molecular division. So that's where I first got introduced to you. You were at Diaceutics selling, we were looking for marketing landscape data. And that was we were sort of interacting. You were the business development for that project. And I was the lead for that statement of work. So we had some pretty good back and forth there. And once I actually left Abbott to come over to Diaceutics, and that's where we became good friends and colleagues. That was certainly fun. I sort of came at it from a biomarker and technology platforms, the clinical diagnostics area, which was my sort of particular subject matter expertise. And I learned from you a lot of, I had some business development experience, certainly from my days at Abbott, but we had a very good time. You really taught me about the whole real data, the real world data. So so that's where I learned a lot there from you. And we, as you remember, we worked with many of our pharma and diaceutics clients. We complement each other. We always kind of tag teamed writing proposals, kickoffs, a whole bunch of stuff. And then, we parted ways a little bit. We kind of went our little separate ways for a while, different companies. And then we came back at Varinex, and that was great too. Here we are today. We're sort of both, I guess, working independently, doing our own stuff. It's been a lot of fun. So, we remain good friends. Certainly, I think I consider you a very good buddy of mine. We interact together. We often share ideas with each other, and, just excited to be here. So it's a lot of fun.
This is definitely, brings all the old time back. When you joined us, somebody told you go talk to Amit Jain. Can you talk a little more about that?
Oh, yeah, sure. So it was funny. So when I first joined, at the time I was talking with the leader of the commercial team, and he was like, "Oh, you got to meet this guy." He was interested to know. He wanted to meet me in person. I got to see this guy who was making my life he was being a pain in the butt trying to get this statement of work done. We went back and forth. It was a lot of fun. So once we kind of met, we immediately meshed. It was kind of cool. We went to a bar, we had a few drinks, talked about what Diasux was trying to build together, and we had some ideas and some plans how we were going to integrate some of that stuff together, and we went and we just moved forward. We were really part of the the original core group of people there after the founders. I like to think that Amit and I together and a few others were really part of that sort of original group. So it was a lot of fun working together.
Amazing. It's an experience which we live together. Pete, I want to ask you a little bit about your background and how you got into the PM mainstream, if you can talk a little about that.
Sure. So it's interesting. I was thinking about this. I often think about this now, really from the very beginning, even as a graduate student. The work I did was involved in understanding the very specific effect of the order of DNA bases, right? We talk about like genomics, right? So the DNA, and not only what is the sequence, what are the A's, T's, C's, and G's in terms of the content, but even the arrangement. So from the very beginning, my career was always about being as specific and as unique as possible and seeing how those different things would affect things. Now it had very practical applications in biotechnology. So a lot of the PCR primer and probe designs that are used in arrays or whatever. A lot of the rules involved in that. My graduate work was actually part of pulling some of those rules together, empirical as well as thermodynamic. But then after that, and then from early on, my advisor kind of, he recognized that I kind of liked it wasn't a pure academic. So even though I enjoyed learning, he saw I kind of had like a sort of a business sort of aspect to my interests. And so really joined his company. I was actually part of the founders of a small biotech company then, where we were trying to apply some of the principles that we had learned. And it turns out we were probably about 15 to 20 years too early. So the state-of-the-art sequencing was an ABI 377. I managed the sequencing lab. We were basically trying to determine were there certain types of evolutionary sequences that could impact expression levels. And so the idea, our first application was going to be, could we improve protein expression systems to basically generate more proteins for like antibiotics or those sorts of things? So from there, I had a few stints in I had my own company for a little while. Didn't work out too well. But again, everything was always about being very specific. So very technical aspect of, how the DNA sequences interact or impacted how they bind with other ligands or other proteins or even their own structure. From there, basically got really heavy into assay development. Naturally, when I got into sort of the clinical molecular diagnostics, where I had experience with it was a point of care system company. At the time, it was called Nanosphere. There's where really I learned, we had a lot of with Nanosphere. We had was involved in developing FDA approved assays. At that point, it was focused just on the genetics, so very common assays. What sort of hereditary genetics? So how do gene sequences affect how you will respond to, what the right dosage for warfarin or Coumadin? Identifying cystic fibrosis mutations, things like that. So hypercoagulation. So the very beginning at the time was called PGX, pharmacogenomics. Yep. Today people refer to it as pharmacogenetics. That was really kind of like the origin of this whole field. From there went to epimolecular. That's where I began more of a interest in the BD commercial aspect of things. Was still hired in mostly as a technology person. So our team at Epimolecular was responsible for, my particular I had two particular responsibilities. I was the biomarker lead for our company. So early on in precision medicine, like I said, it was called PGX back then. It was really about small panels. So my job was to understand, and our focus was in oncology at the time. So my job was specifically to learn all the major oncology or all the oncology diseases and identify what were the particular biomarkers or genomic targets, and how you would basically identify them, either whether it be by PCR, by microarrays at the time, and then obviously into next gen sequencing. We were a company that a lot of these sequencing companies came to. So I had worked with all the, like Thermo Fisher, Illumina. I basically worked with all of them at the very beginning, where we were at that time. The focus was in on how to bring these really cool and interesting technologies into a workflow format that would be doable by laboratory. So sometimes oftentimes really cool technology, but if it doesn't translate to a lab and working, it would be. So that was kind of the thing there. And then from there, you became more and more involved in identifying leads. Was involved in their companion diagnostic program there, so was an alliance manager with them, as well as determining companion diagnostic strategy for Abbott Molecular a little bit with the BD and marketing team. And then that's what led me into identifying. That's where I met with Amit. So we were involved in identifying areas where we'd want to sort of sell our products, or what we think what we should develop.
Right.
And then diaceutics, and diaceutics was when it really became, as we talked about a little while ago, the focus there was on our pharma clients. So that's where we began understanding like the landscapes. That's where I kind of brought a lot of my biomarker expertise to the company, and where we integrated and started understanding like what what the pharma companies want, all the things that the pharma companies want to know. And then Veranex. So yeah, it was so as I evolved, I was sort of maintaining that basic level of the technology and the biotech and the biochemistry of the technology aspects of it, but was always constantly complementing, integrating more and more the commercial aspects.
Yep. That's why I called you precision medicine subject matter expert. Pete, let's dig a little more into your personal journey and your experience with precision beyond medicine, because I think this is what is the soul and core of our podcast.
Sure. So, as I'm sure most of the people listening to this will know, precision medicine really, I would say today is a very mature sort of activity in science, you might say, in the medical profession. And that's really been because of oncology. And really, it's now beginning to transition, especially within the last 5 years, and a lot of non-oncology type diseases, say cardiovascular diseases, neurological diseases, autoimmune diseases, etc. I personally, as I've told most of my colleagues know, so I have multiple sclerosis. And one of the things that was interesting from a patient for me is, as I was doing all the sort of precision medicine from a personal aspect and trying to help the pharma clients out with their strategies, it would always be very disappointing how much the precision medicine principles or practices were lacking in a lot of these non-oncology aspects. So it was kind of a goal of mine to try to bring what I know about precision medicine and introduce my neurologists to these concepts. They were very, very naive about this stuff. So it was interesting. They'd be as interested in talking with me at my doctor's appointments as I was in learning what my progress was. So it was actually called, we kind of learned from each other. I learned about what was wrong with me, and they learned about what I do could help them with their practices. So today, I've had multiple sclerosis for it's going to be about 10 years in November. And obviously, when I was diagnosed, multiple sclerosis was a very traditional disease. So what that means is that kind of, one drug fits all, treats the symptoms, and it works towards the mean. That worked a little bit for me, and that's really all I did. Really didn't change anything other than they said, hey, you have multiple sclerosis. Take this medicine, do some MRIs every year, come back for a yearly checkup, and we'll see what's going on. It was very simple. So I'm like, okay, whatever. That made sense. And then after about 4 or 5 years, started getting a little bit worse. So it was clear it was becoming more progressive. And so that's when I started looking more into all things that could complement these general symptomatic things. And so the first thing I did was sought out at the time, and today it's called a functional medicine practitioner. So functional medicine practitioners are really, I would say, professional. A lot of them also have MDs, but they are doctors and medical professionals that recognize that overall health and well-being can combine a lot more things than just sort of standard medication. So they don't knock medication, but they'll tend to be the type of professionals that will be a little bit more willing to sort of test things like, what are the benefits of vitamins? What are the benefits of different nutrition, exercise routines, et cetera, et cetera. So I started doing that. I had a particular functional medicine practitioner that I worked with for about a year. We changed my diet, so she ran a whole bunch of different tests from me, much more detail beyond just your standard metabolic panels and blood count panels. And then she basically identified a very unique diet for me that would and a supplement with vitamins that would basically attack the overall, because effectively multiple sclerosis is an autoimmune disease. And all autoimmune diseases, they pretty much all have the same general MO and how they operate. They just attack different organ systems or different systems. So multiple sclerosis just happens to be an autoimmune disease that attacks the neurological system and can affect your walking, balance, speech, all sorts of things like that. So there were some very general specific things that one could do in order to really effectively do two things. The biggest thing was eliminating diet and sources of materials or items that would sort of keep your body in a constant inflammation status. And it turned out that was basically what it was. So even when I was getting my symptomatic medicine, what she learned from my profiles was that basically my body was effectively always in a constant state of inflammation. And so one of the things that we did was sort of reduce things like sugar. So I eliminated all, very simple things. But again, here's where precision and personal. So from a patient, precision is really about personalized medicine. So personalized, precision, really kind of the same concepts. This seemed to be working. I would say that since for the last 7 years, stopped drinking soda. I don't eat anything out of a box anymore. Everything is all homemade. Lots of lot of fruits and vegetables. Typical things, gluten-free. So again, very typical things, but the key is you have to stick with it. You can't. And the idea was it wasn't a diet; it was a lifestyle choice. And so what you want to do is you don't want to do. The goal was substitute things that you liked for things that you shouldn't have, that were just as good substitutes, and then that would be something that you would do all the time. It took about a year to get used to that, and then now it's like there are certain things that I absolutely cannot eat because they're gross. Like if I eat if I try to eat like a regular piece of bread out of a bag, it tastes like a piece of cake. That's how much sugar is in. It's disgusting. So diet was a big part of it. Then exercise. So obviously for someone with MS, coming up with an exercise plan is very difficult because everybody has different levels of fatigue. There's fatigue factors in there. There's different levels of range of motion, different strength, all kinds of things. So over the years, again, trying to put together some very specific exercise routines, not only about what exercises you do, but actually what time of the day you do them in. So all these things are very important. So you learn, what's nice about these things is you learn very, very much about yourself. Like in fact, a lot of my physical therapists and my doctors always comment how well I've taken this on. I'm very, very specific about like when I can do things, but I can't do things. And that was certainly part of the exercise. And I'll say another big aspect of it was things like meditation. So I was very much a non-believer of that stuff. I'll be very honest. I thought it was kind of like a witchcraft and voodoo and just a bunch of like rigmarole. But once my neurologist was very into this, and so once he convinced me that I should at least give it a try, it was amazing. It actually helped. And it was really amazing. So now now meditating has become like part of my everyday life. I can't go through a day. I basically meditate twice a day for about 45 minutes each time. And not only meditating, but making it very specific. So what I did for myself is integrate some music. And it turns out there are different frequencies of music that are good for different things. And so I've actually identified certain frequencies. There are certain frequencies of music, and I'm probably someone from who's come from India culture. There's a lot of that. So and all that stuff makes perfect sense. So there are frequencies that are better for relaxing and sleeping, and there are others that are better for healing. And so depending on the mood I'm in, I will basically put those different kinds of those music that songs on, do some deep meditation, do some stretching, and it's awesome. So yeah, it's been really, and I would say that right now, probably for the last 3 or 4 years, I've been pretty stabilized. I mean, obviously, I've declined a bit, but I'm stabilized now. And then now we're starting to see now is with a lot of the precision medicine concept, clinical diagnostics, precision diagnostics is now trickling into like a lot of the non-oncology areas, particularly Alzheimer's disease, but in general, and autoimmune diseases. So now, and again, I work with my neurologist, and what I'm actually hoping is that one of these days we'll be able to get him. I'd like to get him as a guest on your podcast, and I think it'd be really cool to talk with him. He's really about, and he was fascinated by the things I would tell him about what I did. And he's really been someone who really wants to sort of integrate some of these precision principles into how he treats all his patients. I've actually been helping him on the side with some ideas. He's very much into it. I actually have done some very specific tests that basically allow you to follow different types of serum biomarkers, which are indicative of whether your MS is active or inactive. So I do that on a regular basis. And what's really exciting is, so the hospital he's at is going to be one of the first hospitals in the Chicagoland area. So I live in Chicagoland. It's going to be one of the first hospitals in the Chicagoland area that's actually going to integrate artificial intelligence algorithms, learning models, into interpreting MRIs. So the go-to diagnostic for multiple sclerosis is to identify lesions using magnetic resonance imaging, so MRIs, right? So as most people on this call or listening will probably know, MRIs are actually two-dimensional. A big part of the accuracy of MRIs is the size and shape. Well, size and shape have a three-dimensional component. And so what these new learning algorithms are going to be doing is integrating the entire historical sets of images that each patient has, and it's going to try to start casting a three-dimensional image of it. And that, together with these other serum biomarkers I'm doing on a regular basis, really be able to track, because the golden fleece of MRI is to effectively track whether someone with MS is progressing and or whether a particular drug or therapy is actually working. That has been kind of like it could be a very unproductive and very disappointing and very irritating road. So, and I've lived that road. So bringing all these precision principles in allows you to feel better. It's treating the disease pathways better. And it's also allowing you to sort of follow and monitor your disease progress, so you know when things are working and when they're not. So now I can tell so you can add something, take something away, and I can know within a couple of days as to whether it's actually helping or not.
Very fascinating, and then very interesting and inspiring. It also validates the utility of precision beyond medicine and justifies the need for the awareness. And that's the reason we are having this podcast. So I really appreciate you giving us your personal experience, and then you practicing nutrition, exercise, meditation, and how reliably you are doing it. And that's very fascinating. Thank you for sharing this, Pete. Appreciate that.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. So I'm just curious. So I have a good sense of what you're trying to accomplish with the podcast. I think that's a great idea. I'm hoping that we can I can give you some suggestions for some other guests. I'd also hopefully would like to be perhaps I can help you out with some of that stuff as well. But I'm curious. So I noticed that. Can you explain to me a little bit? Maybe tell me a little bit more about how the podcast Pulse interacts with it, meshes with your Niambo. Niambio.
Niambio is the correct word, Pete. Yes, definitely. And that is a very good question, very close to my heart. And I lived with this question for years, and then finally decided that then we need to go for it. So Precision Pulse is one of the vertical of a bigger picture called Niambio. And it has three verticals. First vertical is consulting arm, wherein we support innovators for the development and launch of their technology. And then the way we support here is as a board member, advisor, or a senior leadership role. We also execute specific needs through defined scope of work. That way we assure the advice we provide is precise and needs of our clients are catered to the best. So that's basically a consulting. The second vertical is Precision Pulse. That's a podcast. And that is created to create awareness for understanding the importance of precision beyond medicine. I think because you and I, we both are in healthcare, life science sector, and so are most of our audience are going to be, we want to go beyond that. We want to cross that line and then create an awareness so that so that we know that there's more to the precision, not just the medicine. We plan on inviting interesting guests and speakers from different industry and have them share their thought and insights as well. So that will bring a lot of awareness, a lot of new ideas, a lot of new things. And then the third vertical is venture studio. That through this venture studio, we will be building and launching our own startups. We will take more hands-on approach by identifying business needs, validating those business needs, assembling the founding teams. And because we are a consulting arm as well, so most of the founding team will be coming from there.
Okay.
And providing operational support to scale the companies. That operational support is going to come from our consulting subject matter experts as well.
Very good.
So that way we are using our consulting to qualify and validate the market needs. Venture Studio is going to cater and operationalize those. And Precision Pulse is going to create an awareness platform, which will connect all three dots together. So this is how we are planning on doing it. But again, I will need support. I will need somebody like you and other SMEs, an expert to make this dream into a reality. And then I'm pretty sure we'll go there. But again, this is a concept. We have some success in this ever since I launched it. So I'm actually very, very excited about this. And then and I'm very, very confident that we have a good future in this.
Yeah, no, I like that. That's a very cool idea. So in effect, what this podcast can do is it can highlight there'll be times where you can have some guests and highlight some technical aspects, the precision medicine, like in the diagnostic space, but it also allows you to sort of be broaden out. And we want to be able to get more people, like, again, patients, or maybe people like, maybe one of these days we'll get like a functional medicine person. We can have someone like that on here and really just sort of expand ideas, topics across, because I think it's important that I think people don't realize how important it is for them to be able to understand these ideas and these concepts, because not only is it things you can just apply to your life in general, and most people probably do, and they don't realize they are even doing it. But again, exactly. I think it provides a good framework for you. If you're thinking about that in terms of a framework, it makes it easier to do it and build some of these programs for yourself. But the other important thing is, if you are a patient or you know someone who is sick or something like that, you should always understand these things. Hopefully you'll be able to learn from listening to these podcasts, and you should go to your doctors or whatever, or go and say, hey, look, I heard this idea on the Precision Pulse of this podcast, and have you heard of that? And if they haven't, that's going to take it's going to tweak their interest. I mean, like I said, most of the ideas and the concept that I was asking about with my doctors, they had no idea what I was talking about. They were just like, well, nah, that doesn't work. I'm like, well, what do you? And then I started showing them papers. Like, oh, wow, I never read that paper. I mean, this is like real stuff. This isn't like, I mean, there are studies that are clinical trials that have backed this stuff up that work. So yeah, this is great. I like that.
Thank you. That's the idea, Pete. And then we want to make it reality. In terms of, like you did touch upon the type of guests, we do have a very interesting list of guests, and talks about type of what type of guests we plan on bringing in to the podcast. We will have experts from different industries, such as nutritionist, health therapist, natural therapists, and sports experts as well, so that we can each and every aspect of precision beyond medicine. And I like to say this word every time, because I think it's a good reminder that it's not just a medicine. There's a lot to that. Again, you can't cure a disease or health condition without a medicine, but if you complement it with other aspects, that actually it amplifies the impact. And then we have seen it like everywhere in cancer.
Yeah, and I'm a living example of what, I think it works.
Yeah, you are. So I really appreciate you coming in on our pilot episode. That means a lot. And I hope you could be a regular guest on our podcast. I really hope that we could actually bring this journey together. Definitely we'll keep engaged and keep on picking your brain for other innovative things.
And again, I mean, I know that this is, being friends, I know this is something you had talked about for a while that you always want to do someday, and I'm glad you're finally doing it. And I'm very honored that you consulted me on some ideas how this would work, and also to be your first guest, so to kick it off. So it's been my pleasure. So
I'm here. Well, all right, then with this, we bring this episode to the closer. We appreciate your time for listening in, and we hope to see you in the new episodes of Precision Pulse. We plan on launching it on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Amazon Music, and YouTube. So please do listen to it. Do follow Niam Bio and keep yourself updated with the latest updates from our end. With this, thank you very much again. And Pete, thanks again. And have a nice rest of your day and have a great weekend. Bye bye.
Thank you. Great. Bye bye.